Hello Internet, so nice to see you. I got a question about blues players and theory.
Old time blues players often don't know squat about theory, and they would be helpless to analyze song structure, but they develop a natural propensity for both. They are musicians and they are guitar players. It is often just them, a guitar, a mic, their voice, and sometimes a harmonica, so it's hard not to classify them as outright musicians. At the same time, they are also well known as guitarists.
I have to say that actually, pretty much all the blues players I played with know their theory really well. They know their dominant seventh chord. They even know what notes are inside. They know what scales work on those dominant seventh chords. They have a very good sense of sound structure. They know it's a 12-bar blues or an 8-bar blues or any other kind of blues. And if you go and tell them play an early 4, they know exactly what I'm talking about. But an early 4, it's a blues chord progression where the second bar is the fourth chord as opposed to the fifth bar. It's the first fourth chord that happened in the chord progression. Those people seem to know their theory inside out, actually. And you notice that whenever you go, don't take my word for it, go to a jam session, see those people play together. You don't have to participate, you just have to look at them and listen to them, and notice that when they are explaining the song to each other, when they are negotiating what they want to play, they are talking in music theory terms. We're gonna play a blues in B flat, dominant blues, okay? And but on the sixth, I'm gonna do a 2-5-1 going here, and they're definitely not telling to each other, play this shape and then play this shape and then move it down. Okay, or they're not telling each other, put your fingers on the third string on the seventh fret. They're not saying that. They're not saying that. They are actually discussing in music theory terms. This is true of modern blues player, and it's true also of old-time blues players, because as the commenter will say in his next comment, he's talking about blues players of a past generation. But honestly, that is not true. From the very first generation of blues players, as far as we can tell, those people had a pretty good idea about what they were playing. Maybe they couldn't explain it in terms of academic in an academic way. So if you ask them why your first chord is a dominant rather than being a major 7, they will simply answer, it's just because it sounds good. But honestly, that's a pretty good explanation already. Okay. They know the first chord, it's a dominant 7 or a sixth or whatever it is in the song. They know how to play, they know what notes are inside, and they know what kind of chord progression work. Just because they cannot fit this into a key structure that resemble the major or minor scale of classical music, I don't see the problem. They still know their theory, their music doesn't fit that specific kind of explanation, but they still know their theory, and they still use it, and they still talk that way. There are videos of B.B. King talking with his band, and you would expect B.B. King to not know any theory, to the legends where B.B. King did not know any theory, and then he's talking with the band. I don't have the video here, sadly, but he was talking with the band using very technical terms, and you could see that he knew his music theory. And it seems to be true of all the blues players. Once you ask the people who actually knew them and worked with them, that seems to be the case. I don't think blues players don't know theory. I think they know theory. I think occasionally they use different names than the academic music theory. I think many of them has an interest in telling you that they don't know theory. And I think that a lot of blues has something to do with theory, but not primarily to do with theory in the sense of chords and scale, because a lot of blues lives on phrasing rather than living on specific scales and chords, etc. The expression, the smear note, the slides, the bends are more important in blues, and those things can be expressed in theory, but often those are just best learned sitting down with a player and trying to copy what they're doing. Okay? Less in blues that is expressed in terms of music theory such as chords and scale. Though chords and scale are still necessary, and those people still know their chords and scales. Blues players tell you to mix major pentatonic and minor pentatonic, so at least they know their pentatonic scale, and they can even mix them and play them in the same position. If that's not theory, I don't know what it is. I think there's a lot of mythology around about great musicians not knowing music theory. But like I said in many other videos, music theory is the shortcut. It's the way to learn everything faster. It's easier to become a good musician if you know your theory. And lots of good musicians have studied theory, or at least the part of theory that is relevant to their style of music. Okay? Nobody says you have to study all of it, but you have to study the part of it that is useful for your style and for your expression and for the sounds you want to create. And there's nothing strange with that, and there's nothing wrong with that. But I mean, we have this mythology that those people did not know any theory. They were still creative, they were still geniuses, they were still, their heart and soul was still shining through the music. Theory was just a tool that helped them do that. There is no problem in learning music theory. But I think we should stop once and for all, guys, to say that those people don't know the music theory. If you think they don't, go out and talk with them. And if you think it's of a past generation, well, at least go and try to find evidence of that. You won't find it, okay? Lots of these people knew the music theory really well. Maybe they did not know how to read music, but that's not theory. It's just a specific skill in the puzzle, in music theory. You don't have to learn to read to know your theory, to know what's a dominant chord, what notes fits with it, and what's a scale, what scale fits with the dominant chord, and all this kind of thing. Learn the theory that is relevant to you, and if you don't know what it is, you know what? Write me an email, I will send you in the right direction. This is Tommaso Zillia of MysteryForGuitar.com, and until next time, enjoy.